It's international break and England won, which is good, but we still want to talk about the Premier League. And what other team to talk about more than Chelsea? Are they going for a revival with their latest 2-1 victory over Liverpool? And how do they compare with Newcastle? Let's find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Bobby and Sham win!
All right, folks. How are you all doing? I hope you're having a great evening or day or morning, wherever you're coming, wherever you're listening to Toon Tactics. Nowadays, we're turning into an international show. We've got folks like Matt Lou that are listening from South Africa. We've got folks, I think we had a gentleman from Florida listening the other day as well. People from Utah. So I can officially say that we're an international channel from now on. So yes, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whether you're waking up, whether you're about to go to sleep, what are you doing? You could have been anywhere doing anything, but you're right here with us on Toon Tactics TV. And God bless you, folks. It's great to have you on. I am super excited about tonight's show because not only have we got incredible guests on in well, I can't even call them guests on them anymore. Like they're like they're friends of the channel, official friends of the channel in Mr. Fairview, Bobby Fairview, and Mitchell. It's another from a rival lens series where we're going to be looking at Chelsea, how their season has gone. Obviously, that famous victory over Liverpool now doesn't mean there's a revival. We're going to be looking beneath the engine, looking at some metrics for Chelsea and seeing is there more to this, or is the trajectory looking a bit worse? And who better than Mr. Fairview to be able to do that? But also, of course, our incredible chat. You guys are the ones who add the knowledge, the context, the right questions that make the show what it is. And so, before I invite our guests on, just to let you guys know, we're going to be talking about from the beginning. Mr. Fairview is going to lay out some facts, some context all about Chelsea. We're going to go through their season so far, look at some metrics, in particular how we did last time, actually looking at their XG, goals scored, and everything else. Is it going up? Is it going down? Where is it going to go? We're going to find out. And how does it compare to Newcastle? What's our journey so far? So looking forward to that. But without further ado, let me invite my guests onto the show. Mr. Mitch, Mr. Fairview, how are you gentlemen doing?
Very well today, sir. It's been a good day. So yeah, happy to be here again. Looking forward to the show as always.
Happy to be here, Philip. Always good to be among the Toon fans. Always good to be shedding some light on things at Chelsea. So hopefully our little brothers in investment, only an investment, will be able to find the path.
I was reading
your blueprint, right? You can look at us and see what mistakes not to make.
I was reading another post of yours today. I think you said I think the quote was from somebody else saying, I would not trade Badashile for Mbappe. And I think your quote, you said you don't have to be a stupid fan to
you don't have to be Chelsea. Stupid to be a fan, to be a good fan. Robert is my friend, so I can say those things.
Okay. I'm like, how does he? I'm like, it's just how does he come across these things? It's like they just fall into his lap. These type of quotes, like it's brilliant. So yes, I have to say before I kick things off, Bobby, that is always when I'm preparing for a show, whether it's for Newcastle, obviously today it was for Chelsea. I feel like I'm absorbing more about what the team's about. Because I've watched Chelsea a few times. You go on a few channels, you talk to a few people, but it's not until you have to like study a team a little bit more, like so you can put some content on the show. You're like, okay, that's interesting. And so I was thinking, the whole time I was thinking, I wonder what Mr. Fairview is going to think of this. Maybe he's already known this because sometimes he has it in his posts and his chat, kind of indicates certain things and stuff like that. And I'm like, he might or not or whatnot. So I'm really curious to see your thoughts on this as well. So And
I will
don't know
take
if
that as a really big compliment, because I remember when we were prepping for the Chelsea Newcastle match, both you guys commented, "I'm now looking at this differently." And then when we started the
it's
season,
true.
I
It's
think,
true.
Philip, when I showed you the left half of the pitch of our squad, you were like, "Okay, that looks different to me now." So it's good that we were able to discover these things together.
But you
Yeah.
know, I don't know whether you're a bad influence or not, because when I go on other channels, not Spurs Kings though, because Spurs Kings is great. On other channels, they're like, I tell them this information, I get into a whole lot of trouble for it because
Do you?
I went onto the chat on one channel. I said, you know what? I don't think Chelsea are competing like for the league. Like, I think we might, even finish above them. You guys are deluded. Where do you get this stuff from? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But already got folks coming into the chat. We're going to kick off the show in a moment. Aaron Kane, as always, good to see you. God bless you, sir. Evening to you. Adrian Pickett, as always, Mr. Consistent is here. Big up to Mr. Adrian. He's the one that can, when I take long to kind of explain something, he just is able to summarize it in quick sentences. I'm like, fantastic. Careful, Philip. Bobby will have you wearing blue on. No way. No way.
Big up
I think it's
Adrian
more
as
likely
well.
they'll be wearing black and white.
That's
But
right.
carry on.
What can't it be the other way? Why can't it be the other way, Asian? Goodness, my ratings are all-time low here, even amongst my own chat. David Barter's here. Good to see you, David. God bless you. Hey, Philip. Hey, Aaron. Yes, sir. And if you guys just came in, just to let you know, we're doing the From a Rivals Lens series today, looking at Chelsea. We're going to do a little a review of their season, compare it to ours as well. Bobby's very helpfully put some material together as well to kind of add context before we kind of look at their games, some metrics. You kind of see where they're heading, up, down, middle. What's going to happen? What does it all mean? How does it compare to Newcastle? How does it compare our stories going together? So, without further ado, let's kick things off. Now, let's kick things off with, I think. Let me share it. Let me share my screen first. I'm like, where's the stuff? Here we go.
Yeah.
With something I want obviously, Bobby's going to kick things off for us to add the context that he wanted us to talk about. Now, Bobby, this is what you wanted to kind of lay foundations for. So
Sure.
take it away.
Yeah, because and Mitch, unfortunately, we didn't invite Mitch, or he wasn't available when we had a chat at the close of the transfer window. And it's always good to hear from Mitch, get his objective views on things. And let me say early o'clock that, I come across as a little bit biased because I'm one of these fans who's not particularly happy with the way Chelsea is being run at the moment. I think the prioritization for investment is something that has confused me for a while. You're trying to figure out constantly, what the end game is. We hoped that having won the Club World Cup, that large amount of prize money would have maybe encouraged our owners to invest more in pursuing prize money. But, we then saw them pick up Garnacho and Gittens for £95 million. And that confused me a lot, particularly given the options that were available in the market, right? I'm sure it confused you gentlemen as well. And, as we were thinking about, a show this evening, and I, Philip, when you asked me about, taking a temperature as to where the club is, and it's, you can see that we're sitting in 7th place. And I said, well, but all of this was foreseeable. Right? The coach was crying out for a centre back. We know we need a goalkeeper, and we're in 7th in the table as a result of these positions being in trouble. Now, I think when we look at the data today, and I've not seen what you've put together yet, Philip, but it'll be interesting to see where the problems are with our defense. Is it actually an issue with our centre backs, or is it that our midfield is allowing attackers to run at our centre backs and always catch them in these kind of one-on-one situations? So it'd be really good to dig into that. But what I've asked you to put on screen here was a tweet that I put out there for myself and people I engage with to try to understand, how does Chelsea prioritize investment? I was very disappointed at the end of the transfer window, and I shared that on this channel. And a number of people in the chat were saying that I was being harsh. Mitch, just to catch you up, what I had said was, when you look at the left half of our field, the squad that's on the left side of our of the pitch, when you think about Colwell being injured, so from goalkeeper to striker, the only player that I would say on that left half that's reliable is Cucurella.
Yeah.
Enzo Fernandez can be spotty. We see him doing some obscene things on the pitch from a defensive perspective from time to time. Okay, he's very good in possession, but there are two parts to the game, right? You have Hato, who's just come from Ajax. We don't know how he's going to perform. He looked pretty good against Liverpool. But the rest of it, the word that I used was a wasteland, and people thought that was harsh. Okay, but let me pause here. I've talked a lot.
I remember that.
With that context, what do you guys think in terms of what we were seeing at the end of the window versus where we are? Is it a surprise to you? Is it playing out as expected? What's your initial reaction?
Go on, Mitch.
I'm surprised you ended up with who you ended up on the left. So this tweet is basically what you'd prefer, option 1 or option 2. Option 2 is what you've got.
I will take you through this in a second. I'll explain what it's showing. But from your perspective, based on how Chelsea closed the transfer window, are you surprised that they're sitting in 7th after 7 games?
Not particularly, because I've said this a few times now that I think Chelsea did a lot of business but didn't move anywhere. Like, I don't think they really weakened too much. I don't think they even strengthened too much. They did loads of deals, but sort of ended up in exactly the same spot all over again. It's a bit of a strange window.
Fair. I think that's consistent with where I was. It probably was a little bit less diplomatic than you there, Mitch, but it was a line. How about you, Philip?
Yeah, you know what? When we really when we had that, Mitch, obviously, sorry, you wasn't there, but when we did have that show when we talked about it, we really kind of talked that extensively in terms of where Chelsea were. We kind of looked underneath the hood of like, who do they sell, who do they bring in, what does this squad now look like, right? And I should have brought the other slide, but I remember saying to myself, so say for instance on the Bobby was talking about the left side. So hold on, so you say you've moved on Nicholas Jackson and you moved on who's the other fella? You moved on Nicholas Jackson and Madueke, for instance, yeah.
And we had Sancho as well. So our left side would have been Mudryk, Sancho, on the left side, right?
Mudryk, Sancho on the left side, Madueke on the right. Nicholas Jackson through the center, for instance, right?
Correct, yes.
And then you've got João Pedro, decent, we liked him. But then you brought in Gittens, you brought in Garnacho, like you said, and then you brought in, there's someone I'm missing, Gittens, Garnacho.
Hato at left
and
back
Hato.
to support Cucurella.
Who is a talent, but if you put these 4 against with the other 4, if you guys remember what that is, it's hard to say that this is like it feels like one step back forward. Like it doesn't, at least the feeling of it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is like, Liverpool getting an Isak on paper and stuff like that. Like it wasn't that significant a move forward. So, and then I think Bobby showed when we kind of had like Chelsea's team on display, the squad on display, and we looked at down the left side. And he actually said it before. I can't remember if Cole was injured that time. If he had the ACL or not, Bobby.
Colwell was already injured, so we were looking at it with him effectively not there. So we're just saying, on this left half, where is the experience to dig this team out? You've got a whole left half so Enzo Fernandez always gets carried defensively by Caicedo, right? There's a reason why Caicedo has the most tackles in the league, because he always has to be tackling. Okay, that's not a good metric.
That's not a good metric, because I see a lot of people. I see a lot of people boasting about that, and I'm like, yeah, but that means he has to work. That has to work a lot. That means he has to work. That's not good. Like,
that's
sorry,
the problem.
Bobby. Yeah.
Right. So that's the problem. So that's why I was saying, look, this team, and even just looking at the ages of the players that were brought in, you're dropping back down. We were already the youngest team in the league, and we were replacing young players with younger players, and we were entering a Champions League campaign. All right, so the clouds were forming, I think, and I think had it not been for Slot being drunk again in another Chelsea game, okay, we would have been in 13th. We would be having a completely different conversation today.
Hold on. We're gonna move from this in the moment, but about that game, are you saying? Because I thought Chelsea played decent. Are you saying it was less about Chelsea playing well and more about Liverpool not turning up, type of thing, or what's your kind of take on it?
Philip, you can't have a straight face and say that we should have won that game with Badiashile and Akinpong and Sanchez in goal, right?
That's a fair point. Because that's like a backup to the backups. It's not even like your first choice backups at centre back.
Right? Badiashile fresh off the injury table for months, and he is going to come in there and look like prime, some Italian defender or something. It was Slot lost that game. I'm not convinced that Chelsea won it. Right? You cannot play against Chelsea with no midfield, right? And then expect to threaten that defense. So look, just getting back to the post itself, because what's at the crux of this is, what does Chelsea prioritize? You see £300 million of investment flying in a transfer window, and you're going to say, shit, these guys got to compete, right? They're apparently doing great deals selling. So what's really happening here? And this is where the post that I tried to do was to show, look, we're under sanctions, and I'm not sure if you in the chat are familiar, but it's the same sanctions as what Villa are going through, right? Which is the squad cost ratio stuff. Mm-hmm. So we've agreed to set up sanctions where we're basically forced to match the cash received from player transfers out against transfers in, and it needs to be break even. So let's assume that was all constructed correctly, and we had our last £95 million to spend.
Right.
So we have a coach crying for centre back. We know the goalkeeper is a disaster, and we don't have anything on the left side because Mudryk is a £60 million write-off, and then we've got Sancho, who does not want to get the kiddie wages. So we have an option here where we could have gone and gotten a Semenyo. Now, that could be any 25-year-old left winger. And based on market values right now, the upper end, that could have been £70 million, just to be generous, right? We have Tariq George, who clearly is a favorite of the coach, because he was supposed to go to Fulham. He ends up staying, but he starts before Gittens and sometimes Garnacho. But he costs nothing because he's an academy kid. So of that £95 million, we got 25 million left over. Well, guess who we were pursuing before the Club World Cup that cost £25 million, right? So we could have gotten a decent keeper. Right. So Eddie Howe would have chosen option one, right? Anybody with a brain would have chosen option one if you have footballing ambition.
Right.
Yeah.
But Chelsea decided, okay, we don't have to spend money if we keep our current goalkeeper, obviously. So Sanchez is zero. And that gives us 40 and 55 million to distribute among two 21-year-old left wingers. Blue Coal went with option two. That confuses everyone, right? It's not immediately obvious why they would have done that. And that's what my post was trying to explain here. That what you have to do is to look at the ages of these players. In these cash flow profit models, they make strict assumptions, right? So they'll assume that every young player is going to be, that meets certain metrics, will be valued at X by X age. Okay. And they'll stress that and say, well, if he gets an injury, whatever. But the baseline theory is that a 25-year-old has a market price of 70 million pounds. So if they got Semenyo, that's basically, you're not going to resell him for anything.
No.
Right. Same thing with my gun. Right. So you basically have zero resale there other than George. So option one is pure footballing ambition. You have people that are going to come in and actually fill holes, create a continuity of experience, because you've got Semenyo at 25, George coming through at 19. The perfect kind of developmental situation for George, right? And to provide backup to Semenyo. But instead, we go for two that are the same age. Now, what's the beauty of these two? If they are valued the same way as Semenyo, so that's my point, which is that if player development is linear and each winger is going to be sold for 70 million at age 25,
Right.
option two means that in 4 years' time, you have two wingers available for sale as opposed to just one who will not be available for another 6 years. Is that making sense as to how the decision? I was trying to get this to highlight how options are selected at this club, and you have to look past what's happening on the pitch and focus more on, well, what's the flip for profit opportunity in this trade?
Yeah. For me,
Yeah.
I think the bottom line for what you're saying, Bobby, and I've got a question to follow that up, but I'm going to go to the chat as before I do that. Is I think what you're saying is essentially that Blueco's ambitions is more financial or money based rather than actually winning stuff. Because, like you said, you could have gone for an option. Both you got two options on the table. Money is more or less the same, but you've gone for the option that is in option two that is less experienced players, less players that are likely to take you forward now compared to what you have in option one, which kind of shows you which are players essentially that would take you forward, where you take in players in option two that are players that won't take you forward now, but will get you some financial rewards in the future. I was going to ask Bobby before
Option
I go.
Option two doubles your money.
It doubles your money. Sorry. Before I go to Mitch and I go to the chat, I was going to say, Bobby, maybe you already. I guess I was going to say, is this the straw that broke the camel's back for you in terms of, yes, this is definitely what Blue Core are about? Or because I know you were on it, you were speaking, you was already on there, but it feels like from the way you were saying it now, it feels like even more definitive now. Like this is Blue Core essentially.
I think what is clear is the shamelessness of it.
Oh, okay. Right.
To actually have the privilege of ending a transfer window, having done these trades, leaving these holes in the team, and the fan base just basically rolls over and accepts it. The way this fan base has been pacified is incredible to me. Right? There's no way Chelsea fans would have tolerated this before. But you can see this was a clear decision that was made purely for financial and gambling reasons, if you like. Because we know player development is not linear.
Absolutely. Mitch, what's your thoughts before we go to the chat?
Well, it's the sort of first time I'm really sort of seeing what Bobby's saying here, because I didn't even think of it this way personally. But yeah, you can see that the clear vision is to bring in the younger players that you can flip quicker and just make more trades further down the line. I did know about the you can only buy what you sell type of thing, but yeah, it's just the way it's run's crazy. I've thought of it a long time. A lot of people say Brighton 2.0, but it's not even the same model. It's crazy. I can never make sense of what the actual plan is, and
because they're not buying for cheap. You're just hitting the nail on the head there, Mitch. Right? It's not a Brighton model. They're not buying for cheap.
No, you're spending loads of money on young players that you might be able to sell for even more money, whereas Brighton go and find gems from absolutely nowhere and sell them on for heaps. It's not the same model whatsoever. Brighton's model kind of makes sense for where they are. Chelsea's model shouldn't be this. You should have three or maybe four of them that come through over a spell of maybe 5 years for a Chelsea. But they should be going out just to improve the first team, and they should have been doing that for years. Because at the end of the day, when people talk about the top six, Chelsea are legitimately one of the teams that will be in there for a very long time unless they're run in a ridiculous kind of way.
Well, you said something there and it made me feel like my effort was worth it, because you said you never looked at it this way. So this is why I kind of did it, to help folks try to understand exactly how the economics can be broken down, because you can clearly see that you have two players to flip versus one in this scenario, which doubles your money, right? So I hope it actually conveys that message. And look, I hope Newcastle doesn't have to get here eventually, although I do think some level of it has to be done, because for your revenue base, etc., flipping players like this does make sense. But will you use the first team to do it? That's the problem.
I think what we've been doing is stock loading under 21s and academy players to a point where we're bringing them in for like thousands. And then if we sell them for a couple of million, it's a couple of million on each. I think we're going down that route rather than using first team players. People might look at it, what's happened with Elliot Anderson and Minte, but we didn't want to sell them. We were sort of forced into that position because we didn't get the revenue elsewhere to keep us going.
And I think the Isak money puts us in a position where we can spend 100 million plus and only have to make a sale of about 20, 25 million just to keep that level of spending going. So we don't have to touch the first team unless, God forbid, anybody else should want to send messages on Instagram and say they want to go to other clubs. So, but anyway, let's get into the chat. David Barr says, Gittens will be class. Wanted the Toon to sign him, but we have too many on the left to do it. Quick thoughts on it, Bobby. How is Gittens getting on?
I don't know, David. I mean, have you seen him play? It's pretty bad. Look, I made a conclusion on this kid even before he arrived. They were trying to spin me this yarn about changing coach at Dortmund, and that's why he was on the bench and tactics and whatever. Okay, I mean, give me a break. Just give me a break, right? If he was any good, the coach gets him in and supports his game. All right. If he was really a £55 million player, you don't leave him on the bench. You use him. You find a way to use his skill set. Right. Sorry, David. I think you dodged a bullet there, mate. And let me use this opportunity to compliment Newcastle on an excellent transfer window. But we can get into that at the end.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I was pleasantly surprised. And it felt for gritted teeth as well. Like you still it felt like that's what made it even more pleasant. Neil Gunner says Caicedo quality. I don't wish injury, but if he goes down, Chelsea are finished.
You're not wrong, Neil.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like, when you see like Poseidon hitting the ground and stopping the waves from going over, like, and the waves, that's a bit like Caicedo. And then people keep on saying we've got the best midfield. I'm like, I think you got like the best rescue team. Like, so that's the only way I can put it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like in a it looks great. It's like I used to think, and I still do in a sense. Like, for instance, I don't know, Mitch. Do you remember when Ian said to us, we was on Spurs Kings, and he was saying to us, which Man United player did he think? Defender? Who's the defender again? The Dutch one. What's his name now?
Oh, De Ligt.
Yeah, remember that Ian said to us, De Ligt will get into any top 16.
Yeah.
And we were like, no. He goes, he's good at defending because he has to defend. That's why he looks good.
He just defends more than all the other players in the top 16.
That's why he looks good. Like I was saying to him, look, I remember we had Colaccini. I still think he's amazing, but the cells look great at some points. Do you know what I mean? Like, but so yeah, it sounds harsh, but it's realistic. I better get a move on. Kevin, good to see you. I told you we're international, Max. Good evening from Lakeland, Florida. God bless you, Kevin. Good to see you. David follows up. Your thoughts, Bobby? Are Chelsea now not a Brighton that are just buying young, selling high, but with a bigger bankroll? We kind of touched on it before, and there was a few other people that have talked about this. But I don't know, Bobby, if you had anything further you wanted to talk about the whole theme of Chelsea, Brighton.
Sure. Yeah, I can make a quick comment on it. Look, I don't want to pretend that I have it all figured out. I just make observations from time to time based on the information as it arises, right? And I think right now, am I only now figuring this out? I mean, look, Tottenham has been running this model for a while. Arsenal to some extent, but their source of revenue was different, right? And when I say running the model, meaning hovering around that 7th to 3rd place kind of position in the table allows you to make decent revenue, certainly from the Premier League, because that prize money at that level is still pretty good. Of course, reaching the Champions League is what you're trying to do, but then you don't have to take the kind of risks that Liverpool just took, for example. Spending money on players that they know that money is the only way to recover that money is through prize money. You're not selling those players anymore, right? And prize money is not guaranteed. So I think for sure the philosophy is managing risk by only investing in things that we can flip, trying to get as good quality as possible to still try to compete. So I think we can be in that marginal space there of 7th to 3rd place perennially.
Okay, that's a really good segue to where I'm going to go to. But I got a comment here from Neil. Two from Neil Gunner. You got to look after Strasbourg as well, and to add to that, Chelsea was forced to spend this billion or 2 billion. I don't see Chelsea making any more Caicedo or Enzo price-wise signings unless it's young, mad talent. Either question or both, Bobby. I don't know if you want to, if you've got any response to it in terms of Strasbourg and.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chelsea is forced. Yeah, no, I wasn't sure what he meant by forced to spend $1 billion. There's this rumor that as part of the agreement that Roman required them to make an investment.
Is that not
into
true?
Chelsea? I mean, we don't know for sure.
Okay.
It's the only thing that explains Bully's erratic spending when he first came in, because he did drop $1 billion, into the market right away, and they were pretty much indiscriminate buying at that point in time. But I mean, will they make big buys in the future? I don't think they will, purely because all of the credit lines or the credit cards are basically exhausted right now. So there's no more money unless they sell players.
Right. And when we're saying big buy, so go on, Mitch.
Does that not worry you slightly, Bobby? Because if Maresca gets it wrong, or they get rid of him and they get someone else in and he gets it wrong, and you drop out of that 3rd to 7th bracket, what then happens to the money coming in?
This is where actually I got a little bit of comfort from Philip and a comment that he made. I think it was in a post to me on Twitter where he said Chelsea is asset rich. So we might be cash poor right now, but that comment there just now points out Strasbourg, right? Between Strasbourg and Chelsea, Strasbourg is the youngest team in all of Europe. They're currently in 4th place in the French league. Right, so they're even younger than Chelsea. And so when you think about the fact that Chelsea has got about 100 players that are basically under the age of 25, right? There got to be a couple gems in there somewhere.
Yeah, I suppose.
As ridiculous as it has been, I mean, at least a couple, right? So we'll see.
I think Achapong might be one of them. I think Achapong one of them.
He's the guy that I would have loved to have added into our squad. We would have loved him as a right back, centre back cover.
We've still got a chance. We've still got a chance.
He's going to be a star, that kid. I'm sure of it.
Look, they'll need to generate cash very soon. Trust me. Just hang around long enough, and you'll get something.
Well, but I think that really sets the scene for obviously kind of us reviewing Chelsea's season so far, and what Bobby's laid out, because the whole what we're seeing in terms of the option one that Chelsea could have taken, but didn't, because they took option two, which is obviously the investment, essentially doubling their money investment. And obviously me and Bobby previously looking at Chelsea and saying how far has this team improved, and what we're going to expect what can we expect this season. So that kind of segues us really, really nicely into, what is happening this season? Have they improved from last season? I did go back and forth from last season to this season, and what Chelsea did in this, obviously the initial 7 games of the season, but obviously include their cup runs. Chelsea as well. So we're gonna get into it. So first started off with Chelsea now, and I wish this is annoying because I should have. When I did this first time on Tuesday for Newcastle, I started with the past rather than the future, where present is now. So when you get to do things second time, get it. So you're going to get the best version now of this, because I'm doing it the second time round. But just a quick round, as people know, Chelsea are currently 7th with how many points? 11 points, 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, plus 4 goal difference. They've scored 13 goals and conceded 9. Now, before we get into kind of a little bit more underlying numbers, I don't know, before I go to Bobby and Mitch, what's your kind of initial kind of reactions to that, in terms of what you're seeing on the board for Chelsea? And maybe what you've seen so far of them this season as well?
I think they're sort of sat where they should be. The Liverpool result didn't surprise me, because people have heard me many times say what I feel about Klopp and what he's trying to do with Liverpool, and how I just don't think it's feasible what he's trying to do. So that part of it didn't surprise me. I think we'll see them fall into a similar bracket, to be honest. But yeah, the only thing that surprised me Chelsea-wise was the Man U game. But obviously Sanchez had his bozo moment, and he did what he did. Chelsea will be great one week, not so good other weeks, terrible on the 3rd week, and it will be a similar kind of pattern over the season, but they'll win enough games to be sort of in and around the same positions we are. They'll be in and around 72 to 66 points-ish come the end of the season.
I forgot what, Bobby, your predictions were in points. I forgot what you said for points for Chelsea. I wish I found that.
I think it was early 70s, right? Because we finished on 69.
You did, yeah.
I think we were aiming for like early 70s.
I think I said that you're going to go backwards in points. I remember that. I think that was
yeah.
I think, yeah. Okay, all right.
And that was what you needed to do to get Newcastle to finish ahead of us as well. So.
Well played.
You got to get it how you live. So cool. That's where Chelsea are at the moment. 7th place. 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, 4 goal difference, 13 goals, 9 goals conceded. I'm gonna get beneath those numbers in terms of especially goals scored and goals conceded, and what that actually means, because it's quite high on either end, I think, initially. If you just before we get into it, obviously we look at the games they've played so far this season. Chelsea have played a total of 3, 5, 3, 5, 10 games. Obviously, same as Newcastle. How can I not know that? Because you're in the Champions League. So you've obviously played 2 Champions League games and 1 League Cup game. You've lost 1 and won 1 in the Champions League, and you've obviously beat Lincoln just about. I watched that game just about. But what I was looking out for, but I didn't get the chance to see, is how do Chelsea play after they've gone into cup competitions. And what I noticed a little bit, I'm just looking at it now. You went to Lincoln, you beat Lincoln. Next game you lost to Brighton 3-1. Then you went to Benfica, but then you beat Liverpool to what? Is that Liverpool? Is Liverpool the next game? No. It was because you had the break, then you would have went to it was the next game. It was the next game.
Right, yeah.
It was the next game. 2-1.
But that was also a string of home games as well, right? That's the other thing to remember.
That was a string of home games because when you played Bayern Munich in the 17th of September, I'm just seeing this now. That was away, and then you drew to Brentford 2-2 as well. That's another game that I actually watched as well. I'm going to ask Bobby, like, I'm going to say something positive, at least in terms of like which game has been the most game where you kind of thought that's a good Chelsea performance and result. Has there been any like that you've had this season?
I think we had a boycott against West Ham. That was a good game. Our best game.
That was a good game.
But I mean, the opposition, I think we had our friend from Southampton, I can't remember his name now, the dead ball specialist. He was in midfield.
Ward-Prowse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on, man. Like it was light work. So that look, it's really, really hard to put a finger on what a good Chelsea or what a normal Chelsea performance looks like. Right? Because something is either wrong with the opposition, like West Ham, okay, or we're playing away, which is tough. Right? We shouldn't get manhandled by Bayern Munich the way we did, but or we're dealing with red cards, right? So yes. it's really difficult. I think Crystal Palace is probably the best reflection of our capability, and unfortunately, that was a draw at home. I think that probably best represents how we can throw stuff on the pitch and try to get a result, I think, under normal conditions with a home advantage. But then you could also say it was the first game of the season. I don't know. Like you could almost make an excuse for every situation, right?
And to be fair, there's a point we're going to stop saying this, but it is still the first 7 games in terms of the Premier League, but the first 10 games overall. Like there is a point we're going to stop saying that, but I don't think we've quite hit it just yet. I think.
No. So, but the problem with that argument is that's these first 10 games for the opponents as well.
True. Yeah. Everybody's messed up.
Sure, right? So it's kind of like still apples to apples.
True.
I think though by game week 10, you kind of sort of settle into what you're going to see the league table.
Yes.
Who's going to be in what little groups. I think these days the only thing that's changed from say 10, 15 years ago is that if your ambition is to actually win the league, you can't work on that logic in the first 10 games. You have to be at it from the off because teams are just setting ridiculous points totals these days.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Right, so we've looked at Chelsea's in the league table. We've looked at their fixtures and the games they've played and where they're at. It's all up and down, highs and lows, which is similar for every team. So what does it's a little bit underneath the underlying numbers are saying so far? And like I said, I've looked at Chelsea's numbers this season and also compared them to last season. I'm using at the moment. I'm an XG fanatic at the moment. Not fanatic in terms of just like using it as an indicator. So I just want to. I know the folks in the chat know. I know Bobby knows, and that I'm not like, oh, XG says this. That means you're going to win the league. Like I'm not saying that kind of stuff. I'm just using it as an indicator because you can use any metric, and sometimes it will take 5 hours if I want to use every metric to be able to see where a team is. But what is interesting, and we're going to see bear out in other results in a moment as well, because I do give a total for it as well, is we have so you see on the right side, you've got Chelsea's XG against their opponents, and you can see their opponents' XG against Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
And when you total it up, so far, this is just for the Premier League. When we haven't included the League Cup and the Champions League. I've done those separately, but this is just for the league. So when you look at Chelsea's, for instance, their total goals scored, so they've scored 13 goals this season, right? And the total XG, so it's XG being the chances or the quality of chances created against them. You can see there's very little margin of error. So they've conceded 13 goals. And what the XG tells us is that, yeah, they should probably concede, the scored goals. Sorry, they've scored 13 goals. They've scored 13 goals, and they've created enough XG, or they've created enough quality of chances to score 13 goals. So you can see XG is 13.1, and the actual goals they've scored is 13. And what that tells you is that that Chelsea's attack is performing pretty much to their full capacity, and that this is not a fluke. It is by design. So if Chelsea, for instance, scored 13 goals, but their XG was 6, right? So lower than their actual points total, they are scoring like from halfway lines type of thing. They're just like, it's hitting off 3 or 4 players and going in, like, it's really small. They're just being really lucky. And at some point it's going to even out, and actually they're not actually creating real chances. They're just like getting really lucky. And it's at some point, if they're not careful, if they continue with the system that they're playing, it's going to even out and they're going to score less. If Chelsea, for instance, score 13 goals, but their XG is 20, what that's telling you is that they're creating enough chances to score at least 7 more goals. And should they continue on that trajectory with the current system they're having, that's going to even out as well. And the amount of goals and what they're doing is going to also increase. But where Chelsea are at the moment is, and it's a little bit what Bobby was saying earlier about the Crystal Palace game, they're almost dead on. Right, so this is Chelsea in terms of goals scored at full capacity, at full tilt. I've got to take the chat off so I can see the goals. I can see the goals conceded. So that's where we are in terms of Chelsea's attack. Chelsea's goals conceded, so opponents' XG. So if you total up all the XG, all the chances created in the last 7 games of opponents against Chelsea. Oh, and by the way, in terms of goals scored, going back to goals scored, on an average game, Chelsea have got 1.87 goals or chances that are created. So almost 2 goals. So Chelsea's attack and the way they're performing and the chances they're creating, the quality of chances they're creating is almost enough for 2 goals. And that's, again, reflective of the actual goals they've scored. They've scored 13 goals, right? So it's not bad out of 7 games. It's pretty decent going. Now, opponents' total XG, so that's the amount of chances opponents have created against Chelsea, right? In total is around 10.1, but the actual goals they've conceded is 9 goals. I think the margin for error for that is more. So there's something about that says the teams are creating quality chances against you, Chelsea. And if you look at the average per game, teams are creating literally 1.44 chances against Chelsea. So teams are very, very likely at this moment in time to be able to score against Chelsea with the chances that they're creating. And if you look at the total goals opponents are scoring against them on an average per game, which is about 1.29, that itself is bearing itself out as well. And if you just look at the total goals, obviously they've played 7 games, they've conceded 9. So it's almost a guarantee, obviously, on average. You're not going to see it you're not seeing it. You're not seeing the actual games. I think they obviously drew against Big Palace, but on average, they are likely to concede goals. They are likely to concede at least 1 goal. And teams are creating enough chances against. So essentially, what I'm saying is that teams aren't lucky against Chelsea. Like, this isn't, and we'll see with Newcastle stats, which is a little bit different. It's not that Chelsea's the XG on average has been created against Chelsea. So if the chances that were created against Chelsea were like 0.5, but they've conceded. So therefore, they should have conceded maybe 5 goals over the season, but they've conceded 9. What that would tell you is that teams are getting extremely lucky against Chelsea. Their defensive unit is very, very good by design, and teams are really lucky. They're hitting it from the halfway line. I keep saying halfway line, but I'm trying to explain that's what it will be. But what the stats are showing you that teams deserve to be scoring the goals with the chances they're creating against Chelsea so far. The same way Chelsea deserve to be scoring the amount of goals they're scoring because their system is designed that way. There is very little. Chelsea are performing. What you see of Chelsea is what you get. Like, if there's There's if you're looking at the XG, it's telling you, yeah, it's Chelsea. They score lots of goals, but they're also likely to concede lots of goals at the same time. And it leads me to ask you, Bobby, and I'll go to Mitch in a moment. We'll get to the chat. What you've heard and what you've seen so far, Bobby, and there might be stuff obviously you want to add to it, or maybe like change with like. And I was telling you, I think I can't remember if I was telling you before the show as well. I was saying like when I was putting this together, and when you're putting this together and kind of adding these things up, and you're kind of, because I literally go game for game, get the expected goals and stuff like that. I'm saying two things to myself, and what's in my mind is I feel like Chelsea are burning the candle at both ends. Yes, they're scoring two, and deservedly. Their system. This is their system. This isn't by accident, right? The way the Chelsea system is great for scoring goals. It's also very bad though for conceding goals. So what does this mean? Like how long can you go on like this? Now, and I don't want to do a spoiler alert too much, because we'll go back to the previous season. Just a slight spoiler alert. It's not too dissimilar to last season. Let me put it that way.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
That's the thing about it. So this is Chelsea. Score lots of goals, concede lots of goals, or concede lots of chances as well, which are followed up by goals more and more. This is your design. Like if you're just looking at XG alone, and I've heard you talk about Chelsea's structure, the team, the inverted fullbacks, I'm not overly happy with. What's your thoughts on all of this? Do you, like what you're hearing? Do you feel vindicated? Do you feel like, I didn't see it that much like that? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit surprised with your last comment about it mirroring the prior year. Was it the prior year at the end of the season, or at this stage in the prior year last year when you did the comparison?
The first 7 games. So
you did 7 and 7.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And so even the XG conceded, the total opponent's XG, that was also kind of matching.
We'll see it. We'll see it.
Okay, because that's going to be interesting, right?
I'll put it all together at the end.
Interesting. Because look, it's interesting. Look, you and I we didn't talk about this, but this is actually a metric that I keep an eye on myself. And the reason for that was, and before I forget, Mitch, I really want to hear, you've got a keen tactical eye, so I would like to hear your thoughts on how you see us creating chances, because I'm not sure. For example, after I watch a game, I can't actually believe we had that much possession and created that many chances after I've seen the stats. I guess I'm probably looking for terrible shit. Maybe, I don't know. But I want to hear Mitch on that. But just getting back to your question, Phil, and this data. Last year, I had predicted that Maresca would have been sacked by the Leicester game on November 25th, 2024. And I just saw, and it's not because he was a championship manager, which I was very frustrated about, but it was because I saw the way he conducted those friendly games in the preseason last summer. I looked at that and I said, this man cannot construct a defense. And we were getting pasted by the likes of Celtic, 3-0 in friendly games, all right? And you can just see the defensive problems stemming from midfield. And I said, this guy is not going to be able to, he just doesn't know how to do it. And so I expected that he'd be playing against his old team, he would lose, and they would frog march him out of the ground. Now, that did not happen. And the thing is, I'm glad you like that. The thing is, well, I was kind of hoping for it as well, I guess. But the thing is, I realize there were at least 2 or 3 games, Crystal Palace comes to mind, a couple others, where those teams did not take their chances. Bournemouth lost at the Bridge last year, early in the season, 1-0. They should have won that game. They missed a penalty. So there were a number. This is what I realized. Maresca is the luckiest man in the world, even at the Club World Cup. that run that he had to the final, from the time I saw who qualified for the quarterfinals, I knew Chelsea had won that tournament. The man is just so lucky. So he outperformed XG against by at least 4 or 6 goals for the entire first half of last year. And that's why Chelsea looked as though they were doing well, because teams were not taking their chances against us.
Right.
The likes of Bournemouth and Crystal Palace should have won those games, and the table would have looked very different. But he skated along until December. Now that you're showing me this, I'm not surprised that opponents again are underperforming their opportunities. I am pleasantly surprised that we are taking our opportunities, but this is something I warned you gentlemen about. The difference is Nicholas Jackson. Nicholas Jackson drives that XG performance or underperformance when he's here. So I think that when you go back to that, it'll be interesting. Nicholas Jackson was taking his chances early in the year. So put him in front of goal and he was scoring. So this is why I think, Philip, when you looked at the prior year, that's why our XG looked pretty stable. We looked as though we were taking our chances, but then that nosedived in December, January when Jackson went out of form. But XG against opponents are doing better.
Didn't Jackson going out of form also kind of coincide with Cole Palmer not scoring for a long period of time as well, though?
Good call.
Because he was very clinical earlier on in the season.
It coincided with that, but it also coincided with Maresca pushing Cole Palmer more and more into the center of the field, so that by the time February came around, I saw Cole Palmer at left back.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is where, things are not, there isn't one answer. There's usually multiple things. But yes, Jackson and Cole Palmer had a really good relationship. I don't think it was worth the amount of chances that Jackson missed. So I was happy to break up that partnership. I think the biggest problem is the misuse of Cole Palmer by Maresca.
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about we mentioned last year. We're going to go into last year in a moment. But just before we do that, we've got a few folks in the chat. David Barter says, going to call it now, Chelsea finished 5th in the Premier League. Let me know, David, where do you think Newcastle finish? That'd be great to know. And who do you think wins the league? Adrian says, let's face it, Chelsea's CBs are dusty. Is that? I swear that's not a dead. I swear that's Deji behind. It's not Adrian. Are you really Deji? Are you really Deji? Are you really Deji in disguise? Neil Gunner 93 says, this is a young squad. And there's a part I'm going to mention this in my kind of overall conclusion on Chelsea. This is a young squad, and the rookie manager. Inconsistencies happen. Maresca learning on the job. I've had it with Arteta.
I don't know. That's an interesting connection there, but I would agree with the first part. And I don't believe that Chelsea is a club for people to be learning on the job.
I think maybe that's what he means about Arteta. Like he feels like Arteta's still learning.
Right, okay, got it.
6 years in, like.
But just like Arteta, got it. I'm with you, mate. With you, Neil Gunner.
Neil says you can't blame Maresca for. Okay, now I think Bobby might not be with you after this. You can't blame Maresca for the CBs. You have a goalkeeper at suicide. Also, what is your best CB pairing? What is your best CB pairing?
I think definitely Colwell and Chalobah would be my point of view.
I don't think I disagree.
And look, the best players in that team continue to be our homegrown Cobham players, right?
Oh.
And people do not understand the vision of Roman. Roman saw PSR coming in 2012. He tapped a Nigerian guy named Emanalo, who's right now advising the PIF on the development of the Saudi League. Brilliant football in mind. He put together Cobham as a vision for revenue because he knew we will never get the stadium revenue. But as long as we are teaching kids how to win trophies, so it's not just developing talent. Cobham was dominating all of the youth leagues and youth European leagues under Roman. So you had kids training how to get things over the line from early o'clock.
Mhm.
And that's why you've got, these guys like Reese and these guys. That's where the real quality is. And we're still depending on those players even after blowing $2 billion.
And that's where I see. I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to the second part in a moment, but maybe we'll talk about it towards the end. But I do see a lot of internal Chelsea divisions. I don't know if if it's, I'll say younger generation and older generation, because I see them like really slew some of your Cobham guys. Your Conor Gallagher's, your
It's crazy.
Chalobah's to a certain extent, but especially Conor Gallagher gets it. He absolutely gets it in the neck from people. So
And his metrics are pretty decent. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. But honestly, a lot I hear it. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that towards the end and kind of get your overall thoughts on that, on Bobby as well. But so you don't have to keep this in mind too much because I'm going to actually put this together with the stats for the previous year as well. So it's interesting stuff. Like I said, my overall feeling is that I feel like the way this is a reflection of Chelsea. This isn't by accident. This is how Chelsea's team, how they play in attack and in defense. This is by design. They score lots of goals. They concede lots of goals. And I feel like they're burning that. They're essentially running 10 miles, coming home, eating cake, smoking cigarettes. That's the kind of feeling I get a little bit. So let's just see where we're at. Okay. Right. So this is and this is also your cup competition so far this year. So
Philip, before we move on, I didn't answer something about what one of the commenters said. And there are a number of comments around it about these centre backs, right? When Chalobah was forced to move back from Crystal Palace, I actually posted a tweet and I said, Maresca is going to make him look bad. And I'll repeat this constantly. Chelsea's centre backs are way better than they currently look. The problem is Enzo Fernandez does not defend, and you have Caicedo just tackling in front of them. Somebody's going to get through and run at them. You do not want 6 foot, 7 foot players trying to deal with one-on-one attackers that are quick, nimble. Like it's only natural that they're gonna look bad. The problem is not the centre backs; it is the midfield. But maybe the data tells a different story. So I'll let you carry on.
No, but it wasn't. You actually reminded me. I know it wasn't Enzo, and it's a slightly better player, I think, in Lavia. When we played you guys at St James's Park last season, the first goal in the first 4 minutes. We pressured you, put the ball off Lavia, put it into the if you're a centre back and you're seeing your midfielder getting dispossessed right in front of you like that,
terrified.
You're terrified. Like you're thinking, what's going to happen for the rest of the game, right? So it kind of goes towards what you were saying. Yeah, and so this is your again this season in your cup game. So 2 Champions League games and 1 League Cup game. Bayern Munich, Benfica, Lincoln City. Even in terms of, I've got to take this off so you can see the bottom half. First I'll say, even against Lincoln City, you can see they created 1.77 xG against you, right? And I know that you played a different team, but it still correlates with what's happening. And so when you look at the total in terms of xG for Chelsea in all the cup competitions, it's 3.81. I forgive me, I didn't put the goals in there, but it's 3.81 xG for Chelsea, right? And you've scored 1, 2, 4 goals. So your goals are slightly you are overperforming on your goals, if anything, or you're overperforming on your goals in the cup competition so far, but it's very early. But then you're conceding 4.69 xG in chances. You've conceded 4 goals overall in your goals, right? So it's very, very, very high. Bayern Munich, you can be forgiven for, but Lincoln
City,
right?
Exactly.
So which is where the inconsistencies are. So right, so on an average game so far, which is what's got to change. You're conceding chances of 1.56. If you're going to win something, I don't think you can continue in that
Not
line.
sustainable.
So it's not
Not
sustainable.
sus-
And
no.
the ones you're conceding is actually more than what you're creating at the moment, right? Which is what my if I was a Chelsea fan, would be my fear could happen in the league if it continues this way. But again, it's very
Mhm.
early on, and I think Lincoln City, you play I say weakened team, but this is your rotation team. So what's going to happen if you do need to rotate, right? So this is what's playing on my
But
mind.
was it though? I think Enzo Fernandez was in that game.
He was. I'm trying to
Yeah,
be.
it's half forward midfield. You're being generous. You're being generous here, Frank. He was the marshal leading that midfield, my
He
friend.
was. So Mr. 100 million Enzo Fernandez was there. So yeah, go
Allegedly,
on.
Madrid want him. Allegedly, Madrid want him. We're praying.
I saw you.
But carry on.
When does his contract run out? Because that's what Madrid will be looking at.
Oh man, all these guys are locked down for 10 years.
So it's
Look,
going to
I
be.
mean, I think, yeah. Look, I feel he's going to go. Contracts don't mean anything after the summer for Chelsea players,
We know.
as you guys know.
We know.
But I mean, look, I told you guys this. Like I was one of ones telling you guys, look, this contract is meaningless, and I have to say the same for ourselves, right? Because next year is the 3-year anniversary of a lot of our players, and they are on notoriously bad wages. Right, so I expect some very interesting activity.
We will be there. Action concludes
with lots of money, with lots of money waiting.
So that's Chelsea this season. You've played 10 games. We've seen your goals. Like the general theme, you're scoring a lot, you're conceding a lot, and that's also reflected in your XG so far. Like it's deserved. Like it's not an accident. It's by design. It's how I'm seeing it at the moment, right? Now, how we match that up to last season, 24-25 season. This is your first 7 games of last season. Man City at home, you lost 2-0. Wolves away, you won 6-2. Crystal Palace again, 1-1 at home. Bournemouth 1-0. You beat them. West Ham 3-0. Brighton, you won 4-2. That was your last victory against Brighton in that year, but fine, 4-2, and then 1-1 with Forest. That's your first Premier League games. Obviously, I can't remember if I might have looked at your cup games, but I almost didn't. I don't think I did it because you're doing Europa stuff. You're playing Servette and stuff like that. So I felt like, okay, whatever. So I looked at your first 7 games. This is who you've got, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So on average, it's a bit stretched out here. So I have to go back to that. But essentially, let me get myself into here so you can write. I know why is it stretched out like that? That's not good. Let me see.
On my end.
What's that?
It looks pretty good on my end. Can you see it? Legible.
Yeah, it's not blurred.
Oh,
not blurred.
For some reason, for me, I can't see it. Okay, so
it's pretty good. Yeah.
Right. So the goals you actually scored. So you scored 16 goals. 16 goals, right? At this point of last season in the Premier League. That's 3 more than what you've got now. You conceded 8 goals, right? How much did you? We'll get back to how much did you concede? We'll get to that in a moment, right? So you scored 16, and you conceded 8.
That 8 is 1 less than what they've conceded so far this season.
Right. So it's 1 less than what they conceded so far this season, right? But you've scored 3 more than so far. So that's where your actual numbers are in terms of goals scored and goals conceded, right? And again, you can see on your XG, total XG for Chelsea over those 7 games is at 15.64. So you're overperforming at this point last season. You're overperforming your XG by I got my maths wrong. Is it the 0.36 or 0.46? 0.36, right? So it's here, neither here. It's not too bad. Like it's not a huge number, but it's there, right? It's still I'll still say that you're deserving of, not deserve. What's the best way of saying it? Your system
So we
is a
earned it.
good. You've earned it.
Yeah.
You've got a good attacking system, right? You've also earned the goals you've conceded because your XG says 7.87, right? You're just there's a 0.13 margin of error in that. So again, what the common theme is between last year and this year is, even though the goals scored are different and the goals conceded is just let off by 1, the common theme is your XG nearly, apart from your goals, but like in a rough way, still matches up with your both XG for goals scored and goals conceded matches up with the actual goals and conceded you got, which again tells me this is Chelsea. Like that's the consistency. Is that whatever is happening with Chelsea, the system you're playing or the players that you have is aligned. And it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like you've sold Noni Madueke, Jackson, Mudryk. I forgot the other left-sided player. You've sold them. You've brought in Garnacho. You've brought in Gittens.
Hato.
And Hato. It's kind of like still the same. It's almost quite the same, except for last year you scored 3 more goals. And so if you put both of these together,
but if you took that Wolverhampton result out, for example, that kind of skewed it a bit, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you score 6 in a game, it already throws off. Yeah. It throws off your stats.
Good call.
Go on. Sorry, go on. A bit crazy, doesn't it? Scoring 6 in a game, just chuck your goals up there massively, so you can say, after 2 games they'd scored 6 goals. It sounds great, but they didn't score in the first game.
Especially when your XG, again, quality of chances created, is 1.96.
That's crazy. I didn't even spot that.
So you overperformed your goals by 4 goals. And we know you did that. We know that it was an overperformance because you didn't score 6 goals again.
That is a freakish game. So on XG, Wolves potentially should have won.
No,
but Chelsea won by 4.
Wolves got 1.68.
No, Chelsea got 1.68. Wolves got 1.69.
Oh yes.
And Chelsea won by 4 goals.
Yes.
That's when Madueke went on a madness and was just putting away everything. Remember when the crowd was getting on him after he assaulted fans?
That was the I hate Wolverhampton Snapchat, wasn't it?
And he just toe poked like 4 of them. Okay. And every time they just went in.
So then imagine, I was looking at Wolves, so it's actually Chelsea that got the 1.68. Oh my word. Okay. So then if you take away, 4
I tell
goals?
you, this is the luckiest manager in the world. Okay, lucky. There are at least 4 games in that list there that he should have lost.
So if you take away that 4 goals though, Bobby, that means your goals would be like almost the same as this season. You'd be at 12. It's not fair.
Yeah.
You still score. Like, but if we were to say that, right? If you were to, like, if it wasn't for that free game, your goals scored and your goals conceded, it won't be too far from there. And look, let me show you so we can put them together so people have to remember.
The problem though is, Phil, that those teams are are harder. So I don't know if the teams have a rating, but if you look at the start of the quality of the opposition and where the game is being played as well, this year we've had a much easier start. So I'm just giving you that data point to add to what the conclusion you're trying to reach.
To add the context, isn't it? Yeah, to add the context to it. So if you put Chelsea 24-25 season with Chelsea 25-26 season, in 24 you scored 16 goals. In 25 this season you scored 13 goals. This is in the Premier League alone, right? 24 you conceded 8. 25 you scored 9. You conceded 9, so just 1 more than compared to last season. Chelsea's total XG in terms of goals created, chance created, was 15.64 at this stage. This season is 13.1, so it's slightly down. Your opponents were able to create 7.87, so nearly 8 goals. So you conceded 8 goals last season. This season, they've created 10.1. Your opponents have created two more, or nearly like one and a bit more chances this season. So opponents are able to create a little bit more, or at least nearly by 2 goals, not a little bit more, this season in comparison to last season. And you're creating less chances and scoring less chances, only by a bit. You're still scoring at a higher rate.
Mm-hmm.
You're still continuing to just concede goals at a high rate, and that's what I felt like in terms of burning the candle at both ends, because this is by design. Like I said, the margins for error between your XG, whether it's goals conceded or goals scored, is almost roughly the same, right? So it's not a fluke. It is Chelsea's structure, Chelsea's season, and the fact that we're going into season 2 and we're seeing almost the same thing in terms of XGs matching up with your actual goals scored and goals conceded, again tells me that this is pretty firm. That this is how Chelsea are, and this is how Chelsea are very likely to go on.
Continue for the rest of the season.
Continue for the rest of the season. So before I go to Mitch and I go to the chat, because there's tons of people in the chat. Someone said I look like I'm steaming up or something. But Bobby, like, what's your, what do you think about all of this so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple contextual items, but you can't argue with the consistency of what you're presenting here. Right, so cut through. I can give you all kinds of explanations for any individual game and situation. I was actually under the impression that XG against was being outperformed more than you're showing there. You call it opponent XG. I refer to it as XG against.
Okay.
I expected opponents to have been underperforming XG against more than you showed me for the prior. But I think, look, this comes back to one simple thing. And I'm going to comment out of possession on the defensive side. I really want to hear Mitch's thoughts on what he's seeing from an attacking perspective. But I think out of possession, the problem is in midfield. And Phil, you taught me about this box midfield thing. It does not work. Okay, this inversion of these fullbacks to try to support Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez clearly not getting back in time. There is a problem in our midfield, and that actually gets shored up when we play a 3-man midfield. So that's when we kind of push Enzo Fernandez up into the 10 position and push Palmer or have Neto or whoever out on the right wing, as opposed to Palmer being in the middle. The problem, whenever you see a setup with Cole Palmer in the 10, Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo in midfield, expect chances against our centre-backs. It's going to happen all game long. For the final of the Club World Cup, it was it was Reece James, Caicedo, and Enzo. Enzo pushed further forward. Again, against Liverpool, same thing. We tried it against Bayern, didn't work. But you will find that whenever Maresca is going into a game where he has to win or is against a tough opponent, he puts his Maresca ball to the side. He doesn't do that inverting bollocks, and he plays with a proper 3-man midfield. So I think with that inconsistency and where he deploys that in games, I'm hoping he has learned his lesson. And going forward, we will have Enzo Fernandez, if he's on the pitch, playing in the 10 with 2 proper mobile midfielders sitting in front of our centre-backs. So that, to me, is the only thing that can change this picture defensively. People are very impressed with our chance creation. I don't have that much of a tactical eye, so I will sit and listen to you, gentlemen.
Okay, I've got a quick question. See did Chelsea's goals, XG creation and XG against, the gap sort of start narrowing at the end of last season? I've never really looked into XG that massively, and apart from say the last sort of 2 months, I would say 2 or 3 months. But did that gap start narrowing? Because if I was looking at these stats as a Newcastle fan, seeing the XG got for goals coming down and the XGA going up, I'd be slightly worried.
I really think that Wolves game skews things. If it wasn't for that Wolves game, you'd almost see the same numbers.
But it only skews the goals because Chelsea's XG in that game was only 1.6 something, wasn't it?
That is true.
It doesn't actually skew the XG.
So the creation, what they're able to create from the system is pretty much still the same. Playing this, which goes back to Bobby's point in terms of like, I don't know if maybe if you're asking this, Bobby, is like, okay, with the current system we have, okay, fine, we create, right? But there's a limit to it. And there's a trade-off. That trade-off is a defensive trade-off that does cost us maybe the ultimate prizes, i.e. winning the league or, European glory and things like that.
But that's tied to Enzo Fernandez, right? Our chance creation falls off when he's not in the team. I will give him credit for that. I personally have, people always talk about agendas. I actually do have an agenda on Enzo Fernandez because of that issue with the racism against the French team. I cannot get over it. Just can't. He was never punished for it. I will not let it go. So I'm always looking at him critically, or more critical than most. And I will admit, once he's in the team, chance creation goes up. But you will see expected goals against also going up. And I think it centers on him and where he plays and how much protection then Caicedo has from his inability to trap that.
Is he your Florian Wirtz?
I actually think Wirtz has been doing pretty well. I think Wirtz should have had at least 3 assists by now. I looked at Wirtz and I see him as being quite a quality player. He's a bit more mobile than Fernandez, I think.
He is.
But where do you guys see so people are able to see, a lot of fans are comfortable enough with Enzo Maresca because of his quote-unquote style of play. What are you guys seeing from an in-possession, attacking chance creation point of view that he's doing differently based on the games you've watched? I'm really curious to understand that.
What he's doing differently to this season, or how you're trying to create chances?
Yeah, I mean, like you would have seen him Poch when Poch was there, more of a chaotic kind of approach, versus Maresca first doing a kind of transition ball, but then in December, January, going to more of his kind of inverting full backs, wide wingers, trying to isolate fullbacks, etc. So, what have you noticed from the matches you've watched and the evolution of the way he's been managing the team?
I think
attacking wise, from what I've seen, I think Chelsea create what you were saying about Enzo Fernandez is kind of what I've seen in your chance creation. You create areas in sort of deep crossing positions for players to create from there. So it'd be a Reece James and Enzo Fernandez, sometimes Cole Palmer when he's playing. But when Cole Palmer's not playing, that's the majority of your chance creation. So you get, like, say Enzo drops into sort of a high-ish attacking area space on the right-hand side. That's why you see Cucurella coming around at the back post. And you see a lot of that sort of long cross into the back post for someone to either shoot at goal or hit it on. And I see you creating a lot of chances that way. Even in the Man United game when both teams were down to 10 and it was screaming out for someone to grab control of the game, it seemed like it was still the similar game plan of get it into sort of unorthodox wide areas to cross from and put the ball in from there to see if you can catch the defence off guard. But that said, I have only watched the Man United game and bits of the Liverpool game this season. So like all that build-up play that you hear the likes of Greasy Dawn and these guys talking about, you aren't seeing those patterns of play? No, the build-up's good to a point, but it only goes up to sort of like the front point of the centre circle. And then from that point, it just seems to go wide and the ball goes into the box. Unless Cole Palmer's playing and they get it into his feet in and around the edge of the box, I don't think there's any real creativity where anything's done any different than just getting it wide and trying to create an angle from there. And that's not putting people down saying this is a simple way to create chances. We do a similar thing, but we have sort of like a midfielder makes an underlapping run and then we'll slip it down the line and try and cross it in a different type of way. I think both of our teams create chances in a very similar way. So a lot of it is through crossing.
Can you guys see my screen? So if I just look at this season, so this is this season, 25-26. This is heat map. And for the folks that are watching, this is from left to right. So the right hand of the screen is him in the final third. So he spends a lot more time in the final third this season compared to obviously still spends time in the back area, but a lot more hotter in the final third, which is probably because he plays for Chelsea in terms of what you're doing. So
but the little areas there are the ones that I was talking about where he's crossing from. So you see the sort of hotbeds, them wide areas there, and then ever so slightly forward. So just not kind of that area there is where he seems to pick up his space and then flip that cross into that back post.
And you can see also from attacking perspective so far this season, 3 goals scored, expected goals of 3.75. So actually there's still he's not even he scored quite a few goals already, but he's not even actually even performing to his XG just yet. So there's more to come from is what they're saying. Expected assists is at 0.5.1, which is not too bad. That's pretty good, I think. He's got 1 assist so far. For me, anything above 0.35 generally is pretty good for me. So he's pretty good. Touches per.
Wouldn't you expect a player with his role to be creating or having a lot more assists?
So without Cole Palmer in the team, I would say I would expect him to try and create a little bit more, because where else would your creativity come from?
You see, that's where I just had a question what I said earlier, because I was just saying that our creativity drops off when he's not in the team, but he's actually really not creating that much, is he?
And maybe that comes down to profiles, right? So if because if you look at it, for instance, this is just me guessing here, but touches, this is 71 touches per game. That's a lot of touches on the ball. Yeah. So what that tells me, that's what tells me is that Chelsea rely on this guy to dictate the play, to keep the ball forward. And so therefore, if he is not there, right, then it becomes a lot more difficult for Chelsea to get into those positions where they can create chances. So maybe sometimes, and you'll know more, Bobby, is that he's almost the pass before the goal, or the pass before the pass that makes the goal. Correct. The pass before the pass that makes the assist. The pre-assist,
I call it.
So if he's not there, that's where it sort of falls apart for them. Now, I wish I could have comparisons for this. This is the trade-off, the defending, right? I don't have anybody to compare him to just yet, right? So I can't say, 2 tackles per game, but I don't know what everybody else is getting, right? So balls recovered per game, so 3.3. Dribbles, maybe this is one. Dribble pass per game. He's definitely going to get dribble passed, like at least once in the game. And maybe that's where the situations begin to occur. This is this season.
He was the 5th most dribble pass per last season in all the league.
Okay, so he's keeping up his. He's been consistent.
I would say dribble pass. Him and Bruno are probably in a similar spot. To be fair.
Ooh, okay. We'll go into Bruno. Okay,
just 2 per game. Yeah.
So this is 24-25 season, right? Wow. So not too different. Like this is obviously after how many games now? Not too dissimilar. Okay, so he is. What's he doing? He's attacking. He scored 6 goals all season. He's again performing to his expected XG, so 6.13. Assists, 7 assists. He overperformed his assists. Okay, so that's pretty good. Touches 64.6. Not too much, not too bad. That's just, again, very, very high. He's dictating the play most of the time, right? Created 13 big chances. This is the part you're talking about. 2.3 key passes per game. That's high. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And this is why he's important to the. I think this is why we're talking about him being important, right?
He's important. That's what gave me that impression, right? That's why I was saying that our chance creation drops off. when he's not
Yes. So that's the trade-off. That's the trade-off
He
you're
also
getting.
seems to be like your metronome in there as well. From looking at where he's getting the ball and how many touches he's getting, it's even when it goes into a wide man or a fullback, he's the guy that's always offering to get the ball back and move it to a different angle.
Exactly. And this is the trade-off. Dribble pass per game, 1.5. So it's getting even higher, right? So ground rules on 49%.
Last season, he was 2 per game. Sometimes 3. He was
Right.
average 2 per game last year.
So that's the trade-off. And you just have to accept it, Bobby. I think
that's probably why you look a bit better once you push him into the 10, though, because he's getting dribble past in their half. So it's not that dramatic. If he's in a pivot and he's getting dribbled past, once he's dribbled past, they're in on the back 4.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people who don't like him in that 10 role. There are things they're expecting from a 10 that he doesn't provide. I'm not that much of a tactical to give you a perspective.
It depends what people want, like, and it depends what age you're. Because I remember last year people saying, "Oh, these 10s not like how they were back in the day." And I'm like, okay, you guys just remember the YouTube clips and stuff like that. Like, there is a trade-off of having the classic 10. You know, I can't. Who would I think of? Your Özils and everybody else is like amazing going forward, right? And that's what you want from a modern 10. But once that pass, that dribble doesn't work out, it's hell for your midfield, it's hell for your defense, right? Hence why the creation of the modern 10s, your Jude Bellinghams, your Kevin De Bruyne's, I can't think of anybody else at the moment, but there's others.
What was trying to do with Gallagher? What Poch was trying to do with Gallagher? What Frank is doing with that Norwegian kid?
Right. So
Tottenham.
You know, exactly. And Liverpool have gone, I think, are going back to the classic 10 with Wirtz, but they're having to, they still have to build them up, like, because it's the Premier League. So
I think a lot of people also forget that an old school 10 was like off a front. They were considered strikers. They were a second striker almost. Like, now they're considered midfielders. They were never considered midfielders all the way up until about middle of 2005-ish. They stopped being strikers and started being midfielders. And then it's just sort of plateaued further and further back in that they actually need to track, they actually need to tackle, they actually need to do this. But that's also because of the progression of the 6. Because 6s back in the day were smash it, give it. Now they can play. Now they dictate the game.
But also, and this isn't even my idea, I saw Sean Case talking about this, is that, and I don't know what Bobby thinks, is that the way teams play now in terms of chances creation, would you agree with this? And maybe to you, Bobby and Mitch, like, they don't really need a 10 nowadays because of the way the game is being played. Like, in terms of like a classic 10 that, you know, the big trade-off is you're getting nothing in defense, but you're getting something up front. With teams as a collective scoring, and, you know, the way you've got fullbacks getting into final thirds, you've got, you know, literally most centre-backs are spending their time in central midfield, you know. So therefore, if your teams are mainly playing higher lines at different stages of the game, do you need a 10?
Can I redirect that to you? Can I redirect that to you and ask you if you change your perspective on that, if you're facing a low block or not?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you would only face a low block in different stages of the game. So do you need someone crafty enough to be able to, or creative enough to do that? Yes, but you can do it in different ways. And sometimes it can take, for instance, a centre-back pushing up, disrupting the lines a little bit, forcing their attackers onto you so you can find gaps in the back. But you need good centre-backs to be able to do that. We've got good centre-backs, and all of a sudden we've scored 6 goals in 2 games with our centre-backs. They're kind of pushing up and helping us do that. Mm-hmm. And good. So, for instance, Anthony Gordon gets a lot of stick, but I'm telling you, he plays a lot better when Lewis Hall is behind him and creating and getting the ball over the top. So I agree with the point that we don't need a classic 10 to be able to break down low blocks.
Look, I think you're zeroing in on the issue here, right? Which is if you're talking about a 10 who has defensive ability or not, is that a fair statement?
Yes.
That's the distinction. So in this instance, where Chelsea is playing with a 10, let's assume that it's Cole Palmer, Enzo, and Caicedo midfield. You're playing with a 10 who does not have strong defensive capability in Palmer, and therefore there's a lot more defensive responsibility on the other two, and Enzo just does not have that. I think this is where us and our creative 10 trying to break down low blocks and having Enzo Fernandez providing the pre-assist, that's where then the frailties in our midfield start to occur. But because we're constantly facing low blocks, we need that kind of creativity in order to win against the low blocks. But then we get killed on transition, right? So this is where, and then because we're now trying to protect against that by inverting a fullback, our winger is now isolated. So he's now trying to get past 2-3 players to try to get a shot or a cross off. So that, in a nutshell, to me, is Maresca ball, and it doesn't work. That's basically the problem that we have there, because Enzo Fernandez is either going to have to be that Palmer role, and we have more defensively minded central midfielders, so Lavia, Caicedo sitting in front. That works. Then our fullbacks can push up and support the wingers. That's what we saw in the Club World Cup final. That's what we basically saw against Liverpool to some extent, although that was a unique game. But whenever Maresca's gone with a 3-man midfield, it's kind of solved for that. And whenever he tries his Maresca ball stuff, we see that 3 wins in 12 games kind of form.
Right. And we've got a few folks in the chat as well. Big up David. I was always forget, but David Bart says hit the like and subscribe, folks. Guys, this is football substance you're hearing right there, right now. Big up, guys. Please do like, share, and subscribe. You're absolutely fabulous. The chat's been ringing off. Also, I think I saw Wobojog. Big up Wobojog. I'm going to see big up Wobojog in a moment as well. Adrian Pickett, God bless. He says Correa bombing forward insistently is my abiding impression of Maresca ball. Yeah. I'm not too far from that either. Ladmus Prime, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Yo,
I recognize that name. I think he's friends with an associate of mine by the name of Asma. Big up to you, Ladmus.
Yeah, and I think he's friends.
I know you through Asma.
Flawless as well, I think, on as well. So okay. Big up to Flawless and big up the guys. Wobojo, God bless you. Good to see you, sir. Similar to Mitch, I see that build up getting out of the press is slow. I agree. But as soon as the ball crosses the halfway line, they speed up almost like a transition style this season so far, i.e. the LFC game.
That LFC game.
Bobby's not buying it.
I look, that was the worst managerial performance I have seen since Maresca's managerial performance at Manchester United, which were 2 of the worst things I have ever seen in my life watching football. It was a disgrace. I mean, Slot, the foolishness that Slot did by the end of that game to not have a midfield. Of course our midfield looked good. It can't ever be a benchmark. I'm sorry. He should have been flogged for that.
So yeah, Bobby's not buying it. He's not buying it. But doing well, Ladmus Stoke. God bless you. Neil says the 10s are turned into wingers. They're turned into wingers, 8s, 6s. Honestly, some of them even forwards. David Bart says, low block, you could want a 10 surely. I think you want someone that can perform the tasks of a 10. Hence why. And we've just been talking about Enzo Fernandez. Even Caicedo, I think the goal that he scored, a 10 would be proud of.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the type of 10 you play against the team you're playing, though. So say Liverpool, Chelsea, as it happened recently. Regardless of what you play, you don't want to match up Wirtz to Caicedo, because that's not a good matchup attacking-wise. Caicedo wins that 9 times out of 10. So there's no point putting your player in that matchup. So you change the way you play slightly. Whereas if, say, when we were playing Bruno in the 6 and Liverpool came and played us and they played Wirtz in the 10, he would probably get some success. because Bruno wouldn't have the legs to keep up with him for the full game. And when he finds his space, he could then do damage. So the 10s work, but you have to get the right 10 at the right time, which is why Bellingham's so successful, because he's got good touch, he's big, he's strong. Doesn't really matter who the 6 is. Once he's found half a yard, you're not going to get back at him. Whereas these diminutive 10s don't really play as well these days.
Yeah, that's why me personally, I do rate Bellingham's really, really highly.
I like him a lot as well.
Yeah. Before we get to so Aaron says, with the way teams play in a 4-3-3, a 10 in the spaces, the 6 leaves, I feel is important. It's been our kryptonite at times over how 10-yard when teams play over 10. And I think Tonali just helped with that. But also having good centre backs with athleticism. There's so many sins that already Malik Chow is covering for us. Like, there's even small tackles. I saw the second half against Nottingham Forest. They started hitting early balls, and he did at least one last-ditch tackle against, I want to say, Igor Jesus. And I'm like, boy, unless Shaw's got great timing, but if he was out of position, Jesus is getting a touch on that ball.
Yeah, it allows us to leave them one-on-one. We can leave Botman and Chow one-on-one because they're both quick enough. They're both very good tacklers that you're not exposed. You can't leave Dan Burn and Fabian Shaw one-on-one.
No, exactly. So we're heading to the conclusion, and I want to do the final comparison between Chelsea and Newcastle themselves. I've got Bruno Guimaraes' stats here, but I'll get back to it in a moment if we get time. I don't think we will, but you guys got me thinking about something. Right, so where are we? Let me take off this so I can see. Here we go. Right, so this is for 25-26 season. We've scored obviously 4 less goals than Chelsea. Just from the beginning, our attacking output is not as good as Chelsea's at this stage. So this is from the 7 games. We've scored 9. They've scored 13. We've conceded. No, we haven't conceded 3 goals. We conceded 5 goals. That's wrong. We conceded 3 goals. They've conceded 9. Where am I? Here we go. Total XG conceded for us in terms of... No, that's for Chelsea. These are mixed up. This is wrong. Let me see. Where am I? Opponent total goal, total XG. Okay, sorry. I am right. So total XG on our side, yes, 8.71. No, it's not. Where am I?
Yeah, that's right. Our XG must be in and around 8 or 9. Chelsea's is 13, isn't it?
No, because we've conceded 5 goals. It's even lower than that, actually. Our opponent XG is lower than that. Where did I get this? Is our opponent XG. This is lower than that. Where is it? Have I got it wrong? It's because we've conceded 5 goals. Our opponent, sorry, yes, that's it. So our total XG, that's the goals for. That's what keeps on getting mixed around. So the total XG going scoring. So going forward, yes, you're right, Mitch. Sorry, it is 8.71. So we're only slightly overperforming our actual. If you compare our goals scored with that XG, we're slightly overperforming it. Opponent XG, so goals that we're conceding from the opponent in total over 7 games. This isn't for 1 game. This is for the 7 games. Is 2.37. 2.37. So on average per game, Newcastle concede the quality of chances that Newcastle are conceding from their opponents is 0.34, which is very, very good in my view.
So and it's the best in the league.
Oh, is it?
Our XG against is the best in the league.
Wow. Okay. And at this stage, we're scoring on average per game of 1.24 goals, right? So that's where we're at in comparison to Chelsea's at 1.87, and Chelsea are conceding the chance they're conceding is at 1.44. So we're significantly higher than Chelsea in terms of defensive output, and definitely Chelsea have the lion's share of in terms of goals created per game and goals they're scoring per game at this moment in time. Mitch, I'll go over to you. I don't know if you got to see my show on Tuesday. I was just doing a review of our season so far, and I think my overall conclusion is that our defense is performing at an elite level. And that's proven now because obviously I didn't even know that we were number one in terms of XG conceded is that. I remember us being, I think when we must be next to Arsenal and those guys there, which so that shows to you it's performing at an elite level. The other thing again is it's not by accident. So if you
we've two different centre back pairings as well.
Exactly. If you put our if you even if you match our opponent's XG, total XG created against us at 2.37, right? And we've conceded 5 goals. If anything, our opponents are overperforming. So they're the ones that are hitting, they're getting goals from, less than easy chances, last minute goals. We're down, those type of situations are happening for Newcastle United. So our system, our defensive system is elite, and it's not by fluke, right? It's not that Newcastle are conceding like 10, 15 XG, but they're only conceding like 5 goals. So there's, it's not. It's very much at the same level. And looking at the attacking output, obviously we'd like the attacking output to be higher. What gave me a little bit of hope is that, and confidence, is 2 things. One is that, especially in our last 2 games against Forest and against USG, we scored 6 goals in 2 games. We see what Voltamado is doing. I can see on the pitch a little bit more that we're a lot more creative as well. And also, we looked at our player rotation, our squad, and compared it to last season. So last season, for instance, as you know, we had 15 players in total who played 1,000 minutes or more. So Newcastle had 4 players outside of the first 11 who we could rotate with. One of them was a goalkeeper. We had no rotation in our forward line, no rotation in our back line, but we had the best rotation in our midfield. And I think, I say that to say this, I think that's what hampered us in terms of being able to, to play multiple competitions. Granted, we won the League Cup, but it hampered us at stages. Yes. This season, we've got 17. At this stage of this season, we've got 17 players that have played. I thought the maximum minutes is 900 minutes, but we've played like there's a 17 players that have played like about 500 minutes or more, something like along those lines. So essentially saying that we've got lots of rotation. We've got at least 6 players or key 6 key rotational players. 3 of them, I think, 2 of them are centre backs. In Shaw, in Chow and Shah, I want to say. 2 of them are forwards, Barnes and Murphy. One of them is a midfielder in Miley, and I forgot who the 6th guy is. But we've got 6, which shows you there's, from defense to attack, we've got key rotational players. We've got Ramsey to come back, hopefully Wiss to come back to add to that. Yeah. So it's a long way of saying is that I feel like there's more to come from our attack. But you seeing these stats for Newcastle, comparing obviously for Newcastle, but also comparing maybe to Chelsea and others, like what's your thoughts and how have you reviewed Newcastle's season so far?
Up until the Arsenal game, I thought it was a bright start and we were very unlucky. The Arsenal game worried me slightly because we went very defensive, didn't get the job done, ended up losing in the last minute. And I thought it could damage us from there. And then all of a sudden, as people were asking Arteta to, it seemed like Eddie Howe just fully took the handbrake off. Felt like he had full trust in the back four to defend when they needed to defend and let the attacking players go a little bit further forward. And subsequently, we scored 4 in the Champions League away and then could have had 4 or 5 against Nottingham Forest at the weekend. So I would say that I'm now looking back at it. It's a promising start to the season. We've underperformed what our expected points should be. I've put a link in the private chat for a site that I use to look at stats. I wanted to have a look at that once we're off. It's quite decent.
Excellent, thank you.
And the worrying thing was we weren't creating any chances. Now we're starting to create chances, and we're still not letting other teams get many chances against us. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's only going to get better because you had, say, Ramsey, I think, could be a key one. I love Joe Linton to bits, But at times, when he's getting in them attacking positions, sort of on the edge of the box, just inside the box, and getting them sort of little half chances, he's not the guy you want on the end of them. Jacob Ramsey's a guy that could potentially score a high level of them. Like Joe Willock, when he went on that run of scoring a mad amount of goals. That Joe Willock would have 3 or 4 goals this season.
I think we had this conversation, Philip, when we were having that end of transfer window conversation, to Mitch's point about the chance creation, right? Because it's always a trade-off. Do you get a creative player in that Joe Linton role, or do you get a more robust defensive pressing kind of player, right? And if the chance creation if the creativity is not coming anywhere else on the pitch, you've only got runners, I can see why your XG is as low as it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you even see it in the Forest game where we created 2 decent chances in the first half, but we really didn't start creating chances in waves until the second half, when the likes of Tonali and Bruno were running, beyond the lines, and obviously Bruno scored that goal from outside the box, which was really, really good. So I see that happening more. I see our forwards gelling a little bit better, a lot better actually. The likes of Elanga. And speaking of creative players, our Kieran Trippier, when I did the review for that game, was he had 70 plus touches in that game, and a lot of them the majority of them were to Elanga. Him and Elanga exchanged 40 passes in that game. I think 30 of those passes were from Trippier to Elanga, so always going forwards. And hopefully, obviously, Lewis Hall's got his hamstring injury. Hope he comes back soon a little bit. But I don't think so, for instance, that Newcastle's attacking output, which is still relatively low, is going to stay like this. I think it is going to get higher. I didn't know this actually, but I think us and Chelsea last season scored the same amount of goals.
All right, yeah.
Which is interesting. As well. So, yeah, I think so far.
But you had a good striker. We had a dead striker. So
you got good creators. So
sure, which is pointless when somebody's not going to be decisive at the end. Exactly.
We've got before we wrap up the show, I just wanted to. I'm halfway thinking, should I show Bruno G stats and Enzo? But let's see. Jogs has a question for Bobby.
Man, he can read my mind. I was thinking about this just today, but you go ahead, read it out.
For Bobby, do you see Caicedo having a similar arc to Rice, i.e., move to a box-to-box mid, given his mobility and sensing danger defensively, but also his on-the-ball attributes against more technical 6?
I don't think we've seen the best of Caicedo. Anything he's been asked to do so far, he's done exceptionally. The problem is he spends all of his time babysitting Enzo Fernandez. And as soon as that, until that changes, we will not see the best of him. I think that is the ideal role, Robojog. I think if we can get Lavia back to fitness, and you will see Caicedo probably advancing up the pitch. You'll see, there's nothing he can do, right? His technical ability is exceptional, covers ground, and he's just all action. She has a shot, as we can see, right? He just doesn't have the opportunity to do it too often. So I think, you can see there will be an arc, but he needs to be freed from Enzo Fernandez.
And Enzo Fernandez needs to be freed from defensive duties, by the sounds of it as well. he just needs to be free, folks.
What's happening with Lavia? Because
go on.
I think that kind of transforms Chelsea into the from the sort of bracket that we're fighting into really pushing on a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's an exceptional talent. I have not seen enough of him to bang on as much as people do. I think it was actually against Newcastle that he struggled a little bit. I saw him in a couple of games struggling, so he's not quite what everybody is saying that he is. But he's a very good player, and he's certainly defensively what we need, particularly that connection between midfield and defense. More so that, just picking up the ball from those centre backs, being as press resistant as he is, and getting it forward. To then to move it to Caicedo, to then somebody like a Palm. Well, I don't like Palm in the 10, but somebody else in the 10 I think would be ideal.
Just while we're talking about midfielders, this is Bruno Guimaraes this season. And the main
How do you
difference,
feel about him this season? Is he underperforming a little bit from your perspective?
a couple games in terms of he's on the ball, but he's still one of the main dual winners and things like that. So even when he's not been playing that well, he's been doing that part of his game okay, well. And because he's an 8 or 9 out of 10 player most games, it's noticeable when he doesn't play well.
Yeah.
So people can see it a lot more, and the team suffers for it. But I thought he had a good game against Forest, and obviously he got that goal. He's got 2 goals this season as well. So far, he's got expected assists of 0.58, which probably tells you how much maybe people have been putting touches away. Not too dissimilar from Enzo Fernandez in terms of touches per game, nearly 60. But this is where the difference between Enzo Fernandez is, and big chances created, 1 key pass per game, as opposed to Enzo Fernandez is 2.2 was it? And that's the part of his game I'd really want him to be involved in. Not too dissimilar to Fernandez again, dribble pass 1.3 times per game. Not too, but where I think the difference between him and, just if we're splitting hairs, is that his ball recovery is at 5.8 compared to, I think Enzo's was at 3, right? So you know what I mean? So
you can't get him to do everything. I mean, I think to Mitch's earliest point, Mitch's earlier point, the limitation is really Joe Linton, right?
He's going back to Joe Linton.
He has but he's got such strong qualities that
he does.
It's a hard trade-off, right?
Yeah, he makes our system so adaptable, but it's sort of, we end up having him, like if we play a box midfield, he's normally at the top of the box with Voltemader.
And the thing is,
he's not the guy you want on the end of chances, because we saw him as a 9. His finishing terrible.
Exactly. And the thing is, now with Malik Chow and Botman, 2 athletic, big, strong centre backs pushing up, or sometimes Tonali in between both of them, you've got less of a reason for Joe Linton, or those attributes of a Joe Linton, because you got those guys. Now you're saying to yourself, "Oh, can we get someone that can be a little bit more creative up front, please?" That's what you're saying.
But look, it'd be justified, right? Because he is somewhat injury prone. So I mean, to really manage his minutes would be beneficial to him as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's where Ramsey's on as well. All right, so I could carry on till 1 o'clock in the morning, but I can't, otherwise I'll fall apart. Guys, the chat, everyone, you've been absolutely phenomenal. We had, I certainly feel like we've had a tremendous conversation with the gentleman here, talking all things Chelsea, comparing them.
But can we let the secret out that we're thinking about doing a little World Cup, the 3 of us getting together, having a little fun, these kind of discussions around the England team?
Go on, Bobby. Let the folks know.
Is that something the chat will be interested in? It'd be good to get some feedback from the chat, actually, what kind of coverage they would like to see for the World Cup. But the idea right now is that the 3 of us would get together.
Let's form the idea a little bit more, and then present it, and then see what folks are saying, and maybe even do like a little survey monkey with them.
Yeah, let's do that. That thing you were using for the polling could work well, actually. That'll be good.
Yeah. I got people voting twice on it, which is amazing. Folks, you've been absolutely tremendous. We've talked about all things Chelsea and some Newcastle, obviously, as well. But we could talk about their start to the season, 10 games played, everything else. Had incredible knowledge and context from the one and only Bobby Fairview and Mitch, our tactical genius, given his input as well. But it's you, chat, that have been given you're ringing off of all your views and opinions, making me go all the way to SofaScore and search for like stats and heat maps for Enzo Fernandez and Bruno and others. You've been absolutely phenomenal. But Mitch, where can the folks find you? Let them know before we wrap up.
You can find me Sunday night, 9 p.m. on Where the Owls Sleep. This week, because it's International Week, we're going to do a few X11s, not so far in the season, because that bores the hell out of me. We're going to go back to do what other people, what they call Barclays men, from the Barclays period of the Premier League. It's not going to be the best side. We're all coming up with people who have had memorable moments and putting 11 together around those moments and discussing them. So, going to see how that goes.
I love that. Bobby, where can the folks find you? Because I think they need to be connected to you on X and to hear your thoughts.
Just shooting off my opinions on X at Bobby Fairview. I've been enjoying Mitch's content as well on Where the Owls Sleep. So Mitch, I have not been able to make the lives, but I've definitely been doing the replay and leaving a comment here and there. I hope you've been seeing them. So I've really been enjoying your programming.
Chat, you've been absolutely phenomenal as always with your questions and everybody else. Even seeing rival fans coming on as well. You've been absolutely amazing. As always, folks, make sure you make sure you look after yourselves. And God bless, folks. Take care now.